In Zambia, we did participate in the Scaling Solar IFC competitive tender, and we were awarded 34 megawatts. I think that was in 2017, and it's already in operation. In Ethiopia, through a government-led tender, we were awarded 100 megawatt of solar PV. And in Kenya, here at home, we do not have competitive tenders yet or auctions. So we were working through the FIT policy. And I'm really glad to hear some of the comments from Dr. Mutua around really committing to a competitive process. Because if you just look at the numbers in terms of performance, Kenya really sits right at the bottom. There's so much more we can do. So we have 50 megawatts of a wind project in Meru County in advanced development. We're also looking at a 19 megawatt mini hydro project. Pipeline also includes solar PV and geothermal that runs up to the numbers of 800 megawatts in total. So our investment philosophy when it comes to new markets and regions, first, Enel is, yes, an independent power producer, and we exclusively invest in renewable energy technologies for specifically wind, solar, hydro, and geothermal. And Kenya is really well endowed in these four. It's proven, it's developed, and it makes sense for a company like Enel. We're also a long-term investor. We look at markets where we can build very strong pipelines in at least two of these technologies, and that ties into the enabling environment within the Kenyan market, both legal, regulatory, and also from a policy standpoint. Enel is an industrial investor, so we invest in physical assets. We are not a financial speculator. We are here for 20 to 30 years. Basically, we are here to stay, and that means that the environment has to show enough growth and enough stability for us to actually invest in. Kenya has had to ignore its $100 billion economy, and which is growing. That coupled with the regulatory environment and also just the renewable energy sources makes it very attractive. So in terms of the macroeconomic and demographic trends in the country, this means that Kenya has just basically all the right mix. It has a strong population growth, fast urbanization, renewable energy potential, we've already talked about that, demand growth, and cost competitiveness. But this is sort of an asterisk because it means we need to look at how can we mitigate the risks that are in the market so that we can actually get to the costs that we would want to see when it comes to electricity tariffs. One very important point is also adequate de-risk. Today, it's important, we've talked about taking stock, and as much as we want to leap and start looking at new infrastructure like green hydrogen and power to X and e-mobility, understanding that the lessons that we've learned in the renewable energy side is very important in terms of how do we improve on what we've learned in terms of risks and mitigating this risk and creating an even better environment for investors to come in. I'll sort of skip these slides because I think Dr. Mutua went through them. But it basically just talks about the risks that we see as investors when we're coming in, and the fact that there needs to be continuous improvement in the market. Sorry, can I go back? I went all the way. Sorry. Yes. So just in terms of investor interest in Kenya, and I'll rely on a study that was done by our partners, Rest for Africa, Lorenzo is here in the room, and PwC. For one, we saw a lot of concern around development risk and land risk specifically that would need to be sorted. The longer we take with development of projects, the more expensive it would be. We've also seen a lot of issues around grid access. How do we reach these demand centers? How do we actually attract capital to take this renewable energy to the demand side? There's also the aspect of political risk, and some of this is ensuring that we are committing to a plan. We are committing to renewable energy targets that would actually drive a lot of investment that will be coming into the country. I think with that, just to conclude in terms of investor interest, for us, we've actually been in the country for 5 years, and we've used the feed-in tariff policy to develop projects. And it does take a long time, as you've heard, but the interest is still very high. There's a lot of cool stuff that we're doing in NL in other regions, which I hope we can talk about on the panel, especially given that the discussion is on redefining the energy transition. So it still remains attractive. There are a lot of examples of how we can get there. We've seen all the countries on the continent that have a really good job of competitive tender processes that we have actually participated in. And it's important to also manage the investor confidence. Collaboration is key. As NL, we do that with other investors, with public sector, with governments. Wherever we need to go, collaboration and partnership is something that we rely on. And I think here in Kenya, with partners.
I think one, if you're hybridizing 30% of your installed capacity, you should be having a conversation with Tom, still suffering in Mandera, giving people diesel-fueled power. Yeah, so I think next will be Thomas Frade from Fortescue Future Industries, a company that's doing some interesting work around the future of energy. Thomas?
So, afternoon everyone. Thank you, Kenya Power, for the opportunity to talk about this amazing topic, which is green hydrogen. You know, I could go for hours talking about green hydrogen, but I won't do that. But before I start with the presentation, just to capture your attention, I would like to play you a very quick video, if that's possible.
Progress isn't a demand. It's an action. Things don't get better, they are made better. Solutions aren't found, they are created. On a planet of nearly 8 billion people, it's often just a few thoughtful, committed individuals that can make all the difference. The leaders of politics, business, and thought. Those willing to find new ways forward for their people, their industry, their environment, and their economy. Leaders like you. We are at a most critical point in human history. While fossil fuels remain the most profitable, they will remain the most prolific. But time will run out before oil does. Green energy can meet the needs of all industry and all nations. Green hydrogen, green ammonia, and green electricity can outperform fossil fuels and provide a limitless source of power and growth. The time to act is not 2050 or even 2030. This is today's problem, and we have today's solution. Fortescue Future Industries have the technology, the knowledge, and the finance. We are not here to make promises. We are here to build. All we need are individuals with the courage to act. Because together, we can make all of the difference. The time is now.
So I think this video is quite good because it gives you a little bit of an insight of who Fortescue Future Industry is. So we move to the presentation. So we are a global green energy company that's committed to produce green hydrogen. We have a target of 15 million tons of green hydrogen per year globally by 2030. This was set by the company. Just to put in perspective, to understand the order of magnitude, this represents 14 percent of the commercial jet fuel consumed in 2019 previous to COVID, or 17% of all the world's shipping fleet consumption, or 1/3, for example, of Australia's total energy consumption. So we are here to produce green hydrogen, green ammonia at large scale. So what's green hydrogen? You know, hydrogen is a little bit like the rainbow. It comes in different colors. You've got green, you've got blue, you've got brown, gray, white, pink, golden. But we are talking about green hydrogen because we believe green hydrogen is the only solution for the world. And this is because it's clean. It's a clean source of fuel with zero carbon emissions, and it's produced from renewable energy. So for ease of transport, a lot of the times you convert it to what we call, join it with a hydrogen, and then you get green ammonia. And that green ammonia itself can be a fuel, combustion fuel, or can be used in a different applications, you know, fertilizers, petrochemicals, and other uses. And why is hydrogen so important? I mean, we talked earlier about you know, how the Ukrainian conflict is affecting the world, is affecting the economies. The truth is, you know, we rely on fossil fuels, and fossil fuels are controlled by very few players around the world, and we've seen that with Russia having a major chunk of the market. And those players control the price and control the market. So it's very important to find new ways. So if we look, for example, at renewable potential, we see the balance shifts. So there's great potential, for example, in the southern hemisphere. So geopolitically, there's a generation of fuels, thus getting a better energy security and a better energy balance. So it's very important for the world to find a new portfolio of fuels that are carbon emission free, so that we can run away from the dependence that we have currently, to decarbonize these industries very fast. Behind. So bringing a little bit to Kenya, so why do we see Kenya such a good opportunity? We really think that Kenya can pioneer in Africa the new economy, the green hydrogen economy, and we think that Kenya can really leapfrog the oil and gas industry. It's a country that has a very good track record of leapfrogging technologies such as communications, you know, the banking, online banking, the internet. So this is a great opportunity to move to the new generations and start producing the new generations of fuels. And why Kenya? You know, Kenya has a very high quality of renewable energy resources, a very, for example, matured geothermal sector, who could be one of those geothermal renewable energy sources. It's got an amazing infrastructure. You've got a lot of good infrastructure that is underutilized. Skilled labor, you know, it's because the sector, the energy sector is very well matured. It's got very good skilled labor sector. Kenya government is planning, you know, the next Kenya green hydrogen strategy, led by the Minister of Energy, and also because of location. It's very strategic. We, for example, as Fortescue Future Industries, we have signed quite a lot of offtake agreements in Europe, in Germany, in UK. There's markets, for example, in Asia. So Kenya could be a supplier to one of those markets, but also create their own industry in country. So just my last slide on the opportunities. What do green hydrogen economy, what opportunities do they bring for Kenya? Obviously, we're talking from a Fortescue Future Industries perspective, large-scale production. So this will bring a creation of jobs. We're talking thousands of jobs. It's large-scale projects. Also, the development of rural areas, so not only urban areas. You've got the Reef Valley, you've got a widespread of potential in the wind and solar across the country. So this could be a very good driver to empower socially and economically communities around the country. And also, for example, to create a center of excellence for education, vocational training. There's a very good education universities, and we could leverage from that in terms of creating these hubs. In terms of environment, obviously decarbonization is a big topic. So this will be, the new generations of fuel could assist and fast track the decarbonization of Kenya. And the creation of a green industry. Not only about the production of green hydrogen, green ammonia, but this will spur a lot of downstream industries. For example, green fertilizing plants, green steel mill, green glass manufacturing. So this is a great opportunity to bring those industries. In terms of economic opportunities, obviously growth of Kenya GDP. So green, this is an industry that can really bring revenue to existing state companies. Dr. Mutua talked about this earlier. So it will be a very good opportunity to use existing infrastructure and create the revenue for Catraco, for Kenya Power, for GDC, KenGen, all those industries. It will also be a catalytic to the industrialization that Vision 2030 talks to, creating those new industries. And then create growth on a small and medium enterprise through the supply chain. So we are talking big projects that will require a lot of manufacturing from the supply chain. For example, electrolyzers. So why not have in Kenya a hub for Africa for the production of some of this supply chain? For example, electrolyzers or other components. The other one is to monetize existing renewable resources. It's very important that the country has great potential in terms of renewable energies, but if you don't monetize them, if you don't create the necessary revenue for the country, then it's just resources that we have in the country. For example, geothermal, we're just sitting on top of the geothermal, but we're not monetizing that. So it's very important to monetize those renewable resources. And lastly, also a great opportunity, for example, to optimize and stabilize the grid and the energy system. For example, with acquisition of off-peak power, and maybe the selling of excess power during peak time. So at the same time, you are stabilizing the system, but also you optimizing the system and creating revenue for further investments and further expansion. So I'll just leave you with a final quote. It's a fact that the planet is cooking. Some people like to see it. Some people like to pretend they're not seeing, but it is a fact. So we believe that green hydrogen can save us, but waiting for it won't. Thank you.
It will generate some interesting conversations around what is being seen in Europe currently in terms of the scale of the opportunity, and then how particularly emerging market economies around the world are responding to that. Those that have particularly good renewable energy profiles like Kenya, and what can we learn from that? Next up is Albert. Albert Nganga is with Cross Boundary Energy, an investment and advisory firm that has interests in the energy sector here. Albert?
Thank you, Eric. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Engineer Muli. Good afternoon, Tom Ogutu. Thank you so much for organizing a wonderful, wonderful get-together today. I also want to recognize my panels. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm not sure how to start this. Do I just press? Okay, there we go. I'll be very, very brief. And to Juliana's point, everything that's in my short presentation has already been covered. So I actually don't have much to speak on. Albert Ganga is my name. I'm the Regulatory Affairs Lead for Cross-Boundary Energy in Africa. I support the team in terms of engaging regulators across all our markets, participating in stakeholder workshops. We've spoken about energy transition. That's not happening without lots and lots and lots of discussions around how to properly craft policies and regulations. Cross-Boundary is an investment firm. We are sometimes characterized as developers, but we see ourselves as investors. We invest in underserved markets. We are transitioning from, I think, categorizing our markets in Africa as underserved because we believe there's a lot of will. People have spoken of political will. Every government, I think, in Africa is trying to become energy secure. There's a lot of capital available to trying to flow towards these markets. And I think the only thing that's standing in the way of every country becoming energy secure is actually policy. I don't actually enjoy speaking about policy in a forum like this. I prefer having conversations. But I think it's a very important topic, especially when we're talking about transitions from fossil fuel-based electricity generation to even green hydrogen. Our clients are actually multinationals. We also, of course, serve lots of locally based companies in Kenya and in at least 14 key markets in Africa. I'll speak a bit about that later. And in front of you are just an example of some of the clients that we supply electricity with. And our preferred contracting method is through PPAs, also known as corporate PPAs. We currently have about 180 million of contracts already signed and some already in operation. 2 weeks ago in the Africa Energy Forum, we actually were awarded Africa Solar Company of the Year by AFSIA. So that's a very big honor for a small company such as ours. And I do insist that we're actually a very small company, but with a very big impact. Cross-Boundary is about 10 years old now. But Cross-Boundary Energy is 5 years old. We started 5 years ago doing small projects, 50 kilowatt type projects. We have now transitioned and are developing 30 megawatt projects for the likes of. This is a very exciting project for us. It really hits a lot of buttons in terms of decarbonization, because this is a mine. It's also a hybrid project, solar, wind, and battery. So we are very excited about the future of the transition that we've been speaking about here this afternoon. Our clients are very diverse. We don't really choose. We will go for any country, any market. We're doing a project in Somalia. We're doing projects in Nigeria. We're doing projects here. So wherever the opportunity is, Cross-Boundary is going to attempt it. We're not, we don't discriminate on sectors. We'll do hotels, we'll do lodges, we'll do plastic companies. I think we want to be a part of countries that have really trended very, very well